All right. Well, I know we still have a handful of folks joining. I really appreciate y'all joining us today. My name is Will Sledge, and I'm the Assistant Director of Recruitment with the JP Morgan Center, and specifically the Global Energy Management Program, which is housed within the Global Energy Management, or which is housed within the JP Morgan Center. So, we're really happy to have you here today. We have a really great program planned for you. We have some outstanding alumni with us, and we really are excited that you're considering graduate school because it is a big decision. And, I really acknowledge that taking that first step is one of the, most challenging parts of things. So I commend you on, just kind of, moving in that direction. Just a couple of things in terms of housekeeping. We will be doing the alumni panel here in just a moment. If you do have any questions, please use that Q&A feature. Those will send the questions directly to me, and I will be able to kind of use those to talk to our alumni with those. Just a couple other little things. We will kind of go through a brief program overview here in just a second, and kind of hit just some main kind of topics of kind of the program, hit those very briefly, because I know you're not here to listen to me talk. I know you're here to listen to the alumni. And then we'll kind of jump into that panel. We'll do brief introductions, kind of talk through some of those common questions like managing, life balance while within the program, talk about specific program experiences, career outcomes, and kind of go to those audience questions at the end. Lastly, we will kind of go over some just brief things at the end in regards to kind of some upcoming opportunities and just, kind of your chances for kind of interacting with the program in the future. But just a couple of things I kind of wanted to hit before we get to our alumni. CU Denver's program has been, all energy from the start. Our Global Energy Management Program really focuses on all aspects of the energy industry. Students are learning about areas that they might not be quite as familiar with. Other programs say they're all energy, but we've been all energy from the very beginning, back when we were founded in 2009. And that means we have a large cross section of both current students and alumni that are a part or were previously a part of the program, all sorts of different backgrounds, really across the industry. So it's really something where you're going to have access to that network when you come into the program. And we have students with a variety of goals. Many are coming in to kind of accelerate their trajectory, while others are coming in and kind of looking to leverage our degree to switch to something a little bit different. We do have flexible enrollment options. We're really kind of focusing in on the Global Energy Management Master's and Certificate program today, but just know that we offer an assortment of other professional development and other things that might be better suited for you, if this program isn't the right fit. Faculty are just one of our biggest standout points with the program. And I think you'll hear that as kind of a reoccurring theme with our alumni today. They really do a great job of integrating, academic theory that you expect, in grad school, but making sure that there is a crossroads between, that theory and real world application, and we only hire, adjunct faculty as well. That is not by accident, because we love the fact that our faculty are still working directly in their fields, and what they're living and breathing with their careers, they are bringing right into the classroom every day. So it's something where, you're getting that, practical education that really, comes into play with your career from the get-go. This is a program that is designed for working full-time professionals. It is something where, we really do have a student-first mindset. We have had, 500 alumni come through the program, and it's something where we really do know what it takes to be successful. I know, again, you're going to hear about it from our alumni here in a couple minutes regarding, just kind of life balance. But just know that it is something that can be done, and we are there to help eliminate those barriers for you to be able to get that education finished. So with that, I am going to jump ahead to our alumni panel. Lindsay had something come up very last minute, so she won't be joining us today. She may hop on here towards the end, but unfortunately she couldn't be here. But we do have two other great alumni, Jason and Eric, who are fantastic active alumni with the program. To start things off, guys, I think kind of jumping into things a little bit by telling us when you graduated, kind of what initially attracted you to the program, and kind of just briefly go through your background of what led you to the program. I know that was a lot, but if y'all wouldn't mind just like talking through those little three parts of things. Jason, could we start with you?
Yeah, thank you, Will. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason Lord. I was a part of cohort 18 that completed at the end of December 2018, and then had the spring ceremony commencement in spring of 2019. My background is in natural gas, LNG, NGL analytics, and I was really looking into this program as I was at a company for about 5 years and looking to make that next step. I really viewed the GEM program as like a energy MBA, but it's a differentiator to like a conventional MBA that is of course pretty popular, but with the MS designation, I think that stands out. And then it really and at the time was a great hybrid program and prepares students to be energy executives and energy leaders was really what I saw in it. So that's what led me to the program initially.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Jason. And then Eric is our other member of the panel. Eric?
Hello, everyone. Eric Van Orden here. I've been in the energy space for about 15 years now from a kind of career perspective. Break it into three different areas of working more for the EPCs and the deployment side of things in the earlier part of my career. Middle part was working on behalf of utilities, natural gas and electric. And then the third of my career most recently has been more on the technology side of things. But again, in the space of flexible load from a electrical perspective for the most part, but also worked on natural gas matters at the utility. To that end, my interest in GEM, I went to GEM in 2013, cohort 7. I know the alumni network has grown quite a bit since then, and that's one of the interests and benefits of the organization. But with that, it's been a little while, but at that time, I really had spent a lot of time in the renewable energy space for the majority of my early career and wanted some broader perspective about the broader world of energy from a resources perspective, oil and gas and otherwise, but also some of the work in the renewable world at that point in time was very focused around the West. And certainly since then it's expanded. So both kind of geographically was looking to expand my knowledge as well as subject matter wise across all of energy. And I did look at other kind of standard MBA programs and business schools for master's programs, and did go to a quarter of another program that was just your regular MBA, and pulled back from that and just wasn't in it. But certainly when I started with GEM was perfect for my enthusiasm for the energy industry and has gotten me to where I am today.
Fantastic. Thanks, Eric. Well, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can kind of have our faces bright in center in the middle here. But just a couple of things. I know we've had a handful of people pop into the meeting here since we started, but there is that Q&A feature. You can submit questions that way if you do have to do that on the desktop app. So if you're on your mobile, you'll need to move over to your desktop app to submit those questions. But we're going to kind of jump into some kind of main questions that are super commonly asked from us. So we're going to start there and then kind of jump over to some audience questions. I've seen we actually have gotten a couple already, so we'll get to those here momentarily. But Eric, Jason, would one of y'all kind of just speak, because obviously joining a graduate program, it's a big commitment. There's no doubt about it. And on top of the commitment with school, there's obviously family commitments, just life obligations. Can y'all kind of talk through, any strategies or tips that kind of helped you stay on top of your studies while still kind of managing that balance a little bit?
Sure, I'll jump in here if that works for you, Jason.
Yep.
I'd say, yeah, it is a big decision. It's an investment in yourself and time and also money because it costs the money for the program. And it was something to think about. I think kind of from a personal front, I certainly talked to my partner at the time about getting involved in it and making an investment and what that might mean for how much she saw me around the house between work and homework. And I think that was probably the easiest part, but that's not to say that it wasn't an easy or it was an easy program. It definitely, I think, takes some planning, some organization. And I think the hybrid aspect of things does provide some flexibility. It's just kind of one broad kind of aspect of the program. But I'd say with that, another big piece of it in kind of planning to apply, setting your time in advance, and also while you're in the program is my employer was very supportive. And so I did, talk with my boss and those associated with it at the time to kind of let them know that I was doing this, get their buy-in, but also just kind of know that there'd be times when I'd ask them maybe for a little bit more times on projects or something like that. And then I think really the other piece with that was I did have a kind of a professional colleague that I spoke to about the program, and he happened to go to the program a year or two before I did and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this and entering the program. What do you think?" And he said, "Absolutely. I really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. I know you from the work that we've done together and think you'd be a great candidate. And otherwise, certainly, he was kind of a good mentor through the program and otherwise in my career to guide me along and give me some insights in advance. And then once in the program, again, it's kind of hybrid, so it's built for working people. It doesn't make it necessarily easy, but I think a big piece of it is between the individual projects and the group projects in particular. I think there's something I still kind of look for in my professional career, just true kind of open candidness about what your schedule looks like. And in some of the group projects and many of the group projects, we had other stuff going on in our personal life. And we just say to one of our colleagues in the group project, "Hey, I'm not going to get to it now, but I will before it's due." Or, "Hey, can you pick up the slack now? I'll get you back later." And so I think that was really just something that I found we had a good open dialogue about to get the projects done together as a team. And it's something I try to replicate in the real world as well, but was something certainly got to practice at GEM.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Jason, do you have anything else to add?
I guess, yeah, I agree with everything Eric said on, I kind of viewed it as like, the mentality I went into is like, it's my second job. And that's not to scare you, but you view it as like a part-time job, as Eric mentioned, and improving yourself. And then the time commitment can vary week to week. So yeah, it is being flexible. And then, that's part of the benefit of the program is that time management that you get being a professional, having a family, to find the time when you can get things done. So that's kind of like the best way I looked at it. And I think your weekly, I guess trying to think back, the hour commitment per week, I think could be anywhere from 10 to 20 hours, but it could vary. Eric, I don't know if you agree with kind of that estimate. And then, yeah, it's a lot of this can be group projects. So then you're working with your group members and people pick up the slack when you need them to for the group projects. And then you kind of owe it back to them as well. So I think that's the other way to do it. And utilizing even time zone differences was something that we realized, people could be anywhere in the world and internationally. So you even have to balance maybe time zones, but that's actually a convenience. If someone's in your group, they could be working, overnight, so to speak, and then you pick it up the next day for any of that group collaboration, which is, very applicable to the real world these days, as we know, with, remote and global workforces.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you to both. And this is obviously an online program primarily, and I know the program's changed a little bit, but could you all talk about just kind of your opportunities within the program, even meeting folks through your, online classes, how the opportunities that you had to develop relationships kind of with your classmates and, any of your faculty. Could one of y'all kind of touch on that?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I worked for a larger company, S&P Global, during the time, but I guess what was interesting is once I got in the program, I realized there was people within the company and organization that were already like in the program or interested. Word got out, so to speak, that it's like, oh, hey, this program's really popular. So I thought that was really cool that like people within my organization, and I think if you probably look around or kind of start asking people, um, especially once you're in the program, but even beforehand, you'll probably find that the network exists somewhere with someone that has a connection to the GEM program. And I thought that was really special. I didn't feel like I was alone. So then that colleague and I were able to bounce off ideas. If I recall correctly, she was a cohort behind me. So I kind of helped her, but she was also able to help me as well as we were working through the program. So that I thought was a great benefit.
Great. Yeah. Anything on your end, Eric?
Yeah, I think that kind of talking around the office rang a bell in my head. I worked for part of my time during the program at Excel Energy and also a few years afterwards. And there were a handful of folks that were either had already gone through the program or afterwards. And so we got together just kind of casually during lunch hour just to compare notes about our careers, compare notes about work at Excel Energy, and otherwise just kind of make some good friendly relationships as well. So that certainly rings true. More recently, and that those relationships have continued, and certainly more recently, really even in the past month, I've interacted with a couple of my classmates directly, called them up just kind of for some career advice and some information about a specific topic that I reached out to and said, hey, I remember you went through something like this. Do you have any advice on what to do? And had some really great conversation about that was helpful for my career, but also just good to catch up on family and friends and things of that nature. And so have directly one-on-one kept in touch with colleagues in the program. And then also folks that I didn't directly interact with. It's, a large enough alumni network that you can tap into folks, but certainly as my career has gone on, I've seen on LinkedIn and kind of bumped into people at conferences and learned that they've gone to the program, and we get to chit chat and make a connection with that, which has been great in particular for me, as I was in Colorado at the time, but have moved back to Pennsylvania and have made some good connections on the East Coast that are in similar space that went to the GEM program too. So definitely a lot of opportunities to build professional and friendly relationships with your classmates and alumni network. And then on the professor front, certainly have kept in touch with a bunch of the professors as well. Whether it's I did sit in on a couple of classes even after graduating to kind of stay fresh, and also tap into some new perspectives from new professors and new classes that have been offered, which is a great opportunity as an alumni. And otherwise, certainly have kind of bumped into them around town and kept in touch, grabbed coffee here and there that are very supportive of just keeping in touch. So it's a great group of people all around.
Great. Awesome. A couple other questions, and then we'll kind of jump into some of the audience questions that we've gotten so far. And Eric, we can start with you on this one, if you're all right with it. But could you just talk through, 'cause I mentioned it kind of in my words beforehand, just talking through kind of the transition of going from the classroom back to your job, and if you kind of ever used any of the content, kind of in your day-to-day role. Did you ever kind of do that while within the program and maybe afterwards as well, that you saw kind of an impact from the curriculum?
Yeah, I definitely did. I kind of generally mentioned before that I had gone to a quarter of just a regular MBA program and then pulled out of that, in part because I really just had such enthusiasm and interest in the energy industry, and it wasn't scratching that itch, but GEM certainly did. And so with that, a couple of examples. One was my part of my goal, in addition to getting more rounded about the energy world, was to get a more kind of corporate job at a larger business after working at startups like Solar City, which is where I worked. And so during one of the classes for, I think it was economics, we evaluated a bunch of different stocks. I don't think Solar City was public at that time, but I had some kind of connections from working there and was interested in seeing how, when they did go public, kind of using some of the lessons learned from that class to be like, is that the right stock price and how are they going to do? And so definitely use that firsthand. And then otherwise, thinking about the going to a more larger corporate company, in between starting and completing my tenure at the GEM program, I did get a job at Excel Energy, which was kind of one of my goals. And when I interviewed, my hiring manager asked about, hey, do you know anything about electric vehicles? And do you know anything about compressed natural gas vehicles and these new alternative fuel transportation space? And I was like, well, actually, I just completed one class where we kind of acted and pretended if we were a natural gas producer, what would you do to help sell more gas? And we decided to pick the path of, well, we'd kind of encourage and build awareness about natural gas vehicles. And then similarly, a capstone project was about Tesla and Tesla's approach to total vertical integration and the strategy around that. And so it was very relevant and basically is what I worked on in a somewhat different capacity, but answering on behalf of Excel Energy. What do we do with these new sources or loads for energy demand on the transportation side, not just in buildings and in businesses?
Great. Yeah. Jason, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I would say initially with like the transition, maybe the toughest part is that you have like all these cool new skills and you're like, oh, I want to implement them in the real world at work. Because you've had a variety of experiences with kind of real world application, but with that, academic theory that you want to kind of take back to your work. So, whether that's leadership, accounting, HR, on the finance side. So all these like skills that you have. So maybe that was the toughest part, is like you feel like you have all this knowledge and, things that maybe you want to bring back to your organization or develop even personally. But yeah, to Eric's point, I think a lot of it really does integrate, as he said, where, you're like learning about it real time and then something at work pops up and it's like, wait a second, that is perfectly paralleling. And sometimes you can even do, depending on the project or flexibility and working with, your lecturer, you can probably integrate a work project as part of your academic classes. So, that transition, sometimes that's where I'm saying the lines kind of get blurry because it's almost paralleling your professional experience, depending on how you do it. And I think a lot of times your classmates and even lecturers are totally open with the real world application of something going on at work or an idea that you have personally.
Fantastic. Great. One last question, and then we're going to jump to some audience questions. And Jason, if you're okay with it, we'll just start with you on this last one. What was your favorite course? I know you took, obviously the full 12 course curriculum, so there was kind of a variety of topics there. Like, which one was your most favorite and why?
Well, it's hard to narrow it down to just one, but I would say the finance class with our now, the new executive director, Dr. Michael Orlando. That was one of my favorite. I also did appreciate the advanced finance class. I've been on a trading desk for a few years now, and that actually helped me kind of get up to speed to get into that role. So that advanced finance class, I also really appreciated to learn, some more details on the trading side of things. And then one of the most interesting classes was an HR class with Dr. Stephen Say, but I'd say those were my three. I will to give you a top three maybe.
That's all good.
But yeah, and then the HR is like very applicable, of course, some of the maybe other classes are, really necessary for the energy industry, but I think to be an energy leader, for this program, like an HR class, is really eye-opening to how important that is from a human resources perspective.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Eric, does anything come to mind for you? You're muted, Eric.
Yeah, I think it's hard to decide. There were a bunch of really great professors, really great classes. Jason mentioned a couple that certainly ring true to me. I'd say maybe one of them that wasn't mentioned is the managerial accounting. I think that was with Professor Gary Hapkin, and he one, I think, was a great example of bringing real world energy projects and examples to an accounting class that could otherwise just be about counting widgets. And so super relevant to the energy industry. And otherwise, Professor Hapkin had a lot of really interesting stories, both about kind of day-to-day being in the office and also some adventurous stories of getting to the office and otherwise some of his kind of personal slash professional experiences of working around the world in interesting different countries in the energy business. So certainly the accounting one was interesting, and otherwise Professor Herbert Rubenstein was the capstone strategy project at the end that I really enjoyed. And also I went with him to the London and Washington, D.C. trip, which were both great experiences.
Yeah, great. And just so y'all know, this upcoming fall, we're sending students to Japan, and that can kind of evolve every couple years on, where we are sending students for that international travel trip. That is optional, but obviously encouraged because it is a really good experience. I don't think I've heard a negative experience from one of our students that's attended that. So we are going to hit some just questions from the audience here. We've had a handful submitted. If we don't get to your question, please just know that I can help connect you with an alum in the future. If you'd like to have a direct conversation with, one of these panel members or someone else, one of our many other alumni, I'm more than happy to help make that connection for you. But like I said, we have a couple of questions here. I want to get to those. First one was could you highlight any, I know y'all kind of referenced some little things, but is there any particular memorable projects or assignments that you did while a student within the program? Eric, do you want to start? If there's anything that comes to mind.
Sure, yeah, I alluded to a couple of them related to, getting a job at Excel Energy and the alternative fuel transportation. I'd say another one, I can't get into too much detail because then it'll share the secrets, but I think with Professor Say and the HR class, there was something we did with index cards and maybe tape and some popsicle sticks that we had to build a cube or something along those lines. I don't know if Jason had to do this too, but
Sounds about
a interesting, I think it was kind of the lesson out of it, without telling you the how to build the box, was, to think outside of the box. And I certainly thought that was a fun example of doing just that. It was one activity, and I think of many that a couple of the classes were meant to be a little more squishy feely, kind of qualitative more than quantitative. And I think Professor Say in that HR class did a good mix of both, but that particular little project got us out of our seats, interacting a little bit as groups, and was encouraged us to open our mind a little bit and get creative.
Great. Yeah. Jason, anything come to mind for you?
I just think, and this was passed down from previous cohorts, but, speaking back to Dr. Orlando's case study in his finance class is pretty well known. One, because it is challenging. Two, you learn a lot. And yeah, that's kind of always was the class and case study that was talked about for even alumni for me and previous cohorts. So with doing the program, you'll definitely encounter it. I'm assuming if that's the case still, but that was a memorable case study. And then, yeah, the travel courses, I think those are, while not necessarily specific projects, but very memorable for the experience. The London one was pretty memorable. I mean, the companies and like what we were able to see in the program in a short amount of time is pretty remarkable. And then, you're seeing some of the big energy majors or big, energy information providers, Bloomberg, S&P Global. So all of that is really valuable to kind of see how they're working and hear from the industry directly.
Great. Yeah. Let's see here. We have time for maybe one or two more. For either of you, is there anything that like just kind of generally surprised you about going into the program that you just really didn't expect? Either of anything come to mind for either of you?
I think
And it's okay if not.
one kind of general takeaway from meeting and interacting with colleagues, and as well as professors, and also going on the trips to London and to DC. I distinctly remember having a conversation with one of my classmates about his perspective on coming from the oil and gas world, about how the energy industry is transitioning. And this is after the trip to London in particular, but it really kind of was just accumulated over our entire time at GEM. Was after kind of seeing London and kind of the European perspective on industry, me coming from the renewable energy world, I thought, Europeans are much more progressive compared to the US. And I think afterwards, my takeaway was, they're just like us. And conversely, though, I think having some conversations with my colleagues, whether it was because they're in the oil and gas world or otherwise just was a personal perspective, they came away with the takeaway of, oh, wow, energy transition is happening really quickly, and I'm glad to kind of be part of this program, to be comparing notes with other leaders in the space, and it was just kind of an interesting takeaway.
No, that's totally fair. That is interesting. Jason, does anything come to mind for you? It's okay if not.
Yeah, kind of to Eric's point, I was surprised at the diversity of people and backgrounds. I mean, not everyone may have like a very energy specific background, because people are maybe entering this program to transition to energy. You could have people that are very, all the age differences too, which is great, because you have people with a lot of experience or not so much professionally, and I think that really surprised me. But yeah, I mean, people could be anywhere from an accountant to in HR to an engineer, and then oil, like all energy spectrums, and the program's very energy agnostic, so that's really cool to come, that you get to see all energy and talk about it all. Like nothing is not talked about or not talked about like in an equitable way. But and then I guess the biggest surprise was that like the friends and how like genuine everyone is, because you really actually do build like good friendships. I still talk to a lot of my cohort to this day as friends, maybe less so professionally, but I think that's fine. And if so I think that was real. We had, everyone bonded, and it was a good group at least. But I've always heard that most cohorts end up doing that anyways, where they kind of all bond, become friends, and know each other professionally.
Yeah, that's great. We'll finish up just kind of with one last question here, because we do have some things just to kind of wrap up with. And I think this is a really good kind of just closing question to kind of conclude things with our alumni panel, who have been great, by the way. We really do appreciate their time. But I don't know. Let's start with Eric. What is one piece of advice that you could give to someone considering the GEM program?
I'd say, talk to others about it. Talk to certainly the staff at CU. Talk to other alumni, and I think throughout, whether it's when considering it or if you do get involved in it, is there is a bunch of open, enthusiastic people that I think are willing to engage in conversation about the energy space, careers, and otherwise. And the GEM program, I think, opens the door, whether it's just by being part of the GEM program, to reach out and say, hey, I see you have some affiliation, let's talk, just kind of break the ice. And otherwise, I wouldn't be shy anyway. But I think that's just a suggestion there is talk to others throughout it, compare notes. You'll find some friends along the way that are going to help you in many different ways, and you never know how.
Great. Jason?
Yeah, I would say look into like company sponsorship. Of course, companies have programs to help cover some or most of the costs. But then it really, I think, can make you look good in the program to utilize what you've learned, or as I mentioned earlier, like some of these projects, especially like the capstone. Um, and of course, if your company is fine, you don't want to get in trouble with like sharing confidential data, however that works. But if you can utilize basically the program and like, I think, demonstrate back to your company the value that you're getting from it to even bring back to them, I think that's really valuable. And that kind of leads to career progression and advancement. Definitely do the travel courses. And then lastly, I'd say, you get out what you put in. So with, being, doing meetups or maybe doing stuff outside of maybe what's required, but, getting coffee with people that are in your groups or in your cohort. Yes, it's the hybrid program, but there's, I think, the benefit if possible to meet up when you can in person for those energy summit weekends. And doing stuff, yeah, outside of that, or maybe two people can meet to knock out part of the group project in person. I think that sort of stuff is invaluable.
Great. Well, can't thank you two enough for your time today. I know just everything that you've talked about has been super worthwhile to hear from our audience, and I can't thank you all enough for spending your lunch hours with us just to talk through the program. They certainly are giving a lot back to the program, and we can't thank them enough. So we are just going to kind of just jump through a couple other quick little little bit of information, just because now is the time to look at one of our upcoming enrollment dates. We do have a July start date coming up here. We're offering 2 courses, first of which is the technical aspects of energy science. It's kind of a program to help kind of business folks familiarize themselves with kind of the science behind a lot of energy production. And it really does kind of help folks, speak to it on a business sense and kind of be able to, understand it a little bit more than they would otherwise. And then we also have a leadership and decision making in the global energy environment course, just a great all-around leadership course that kind of views everything through the lens of energy. Obviously, that is an area that is continually changing. So both of these are really good options to start with for the program. It is not too late to start for the July enrollment date. So just know that, you're not, if you want to do that, just don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm also be doing a follow-up with you here over the next couple of days. So if there is anything you need, just please don't hesitate to let me know. But just, I really do appreciate y'all joining us today. We really do know what it takes to be successful in this program. I've said it before, I'll say it again. We have a student-first mindset. We've had lots and lots of students come through the program, and we do really try to make it as simple and eliminate as many of those barriers as possible. We will do really anything we can to help get you to the finish line, and that is whether you're in the full master's program or the certificate program. We are there for you to help assist you in reaching those goals and reach graduation. Like I said, July enrollment is approaching and around the corner. I will be following up with you, but please don't hesitate to schedule something with me. There's my Calendly link right there. It's always at the bottom of my signature as well. That is kind of a next step for you if you're interested in getting that application started. You can definitely kind of talk to me, and I can kind of go through things with you, answer any questions about your specific situation. I love meeting with folks to talk through both your career goals and how those kind of align with what our center offers. Just a couple other kind of save the dates on there. you know, we do, like I said, we do have that July quarter starting here pretty soon. We will be doing course observations that first weekend. So, you know, most of the content in these courses are asynchronous, but we do start off each quarter with some live lectures. So if you would like to come, you know, just kind of watch and see how those classes operate, just know that we love having prospective students in those. So that is definitely an option. We'll be sending out invitations for those here in the next couple of weeks. So just be on the lookout for those emails. Also, our Fall Energy Summit, you know, that's kind of one of our marquee events. It is kind of a conference style event, have lots of great speakers, have some panels. We'll typically do some sort of site visit as well. Have had some really cool ones in the past, and I know we'll have something great planned for October. And then lastly, we do have a happy hour. I know it's a little bit down the road, but just kind of wanted to put that on your radar. We are going to be doing that. We're going to have some alumni present. It should be a really good evening and kind of a good way to get a little bit of exposure to the program. But like I said, can't thank y'all enough for joining us today. Really appreciate you joining us during your lunch hour, or for those of you on the East Coast, you know, spending your afternoon with us for a little bit. This is a really good starting point in exploring our programming, and you know, we are really thrilled that you're considering the gym program. But let me know if there's anything you need as you continue evaluating things. I am here for you. I am your direct contact. So just let me know if you need anything, and otherwise y'all have a great rest of your week. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah. Let's see.